The views expressed on this program are those of the commenters alone. They do not represent the views or opinions of Valley News Live, our parent company, or our advertisers.
Welcome back. Tonight in the Hot Box, host of News and Views, Joel Heitkamp. Welcome back from Arizona.
Good to be with you.
It's good to have you back.
Flagstaff, went where it was warm.
Well, you look a lot tanner than I do. So, big week this week, obviously, in the session. It's crossover week. We're going to be out there on Wednesday, but I want to get to HB 1020 about water. Al Carlson puts in an amendment saying that now money from the state cannot go to dwellings, nor the diversion. First off, are you a proponent of the diversion?
Well, I think that the diversion needs to build some coalition, and I think that it needs to be basin-wide. So the diversion, as it is planned right now by the Corps, I've never been a proponent of. I think it needs to be broader in scope. I believe Fargo does need some level of a diversion. I don't believe that just simply building it to 42 is going to save Fargo on the day we need it. But I don't believe the diversion has to be as big and as intrusive as what it is now. It can be done in many ways, and we're only doing it in the one way that the Corps says we have to do it.
And I want to get to that solution in a minute because you're a water expert. You'll be able to speak to that. But were you shocked by this amendment from Al Carlson? He's a Fargo legislator. There's a huge coalition, at least in Fargo, for this thing.
No, I knew it was coming, or at least I sensed it was coming. There's many people in the legislature that want to do two things. They want to end this bickering between the upstream and the downstream by saying, look, until you work it out, we're not going to give you any more money. Number two, what they want to do is they want to put the burden back onto John Hoeven, Heidi Heitkamp, Kevin Kramer, saying until you deliver the federal funds, we as a state are just simply going to build our community, Fargo, up to 42 feet. Now, where that falls flat, and it'll be awful tough on the John Hovens, Heidi Heitkamps, and Kevin Kramers, is the fact that they've got to go in and pitch these. We got a national government that's broke. They got to say, hey, everybody's here doing the kumbaya, we're going to build this thing. And then they say, whoa, wait a second here. The state legislature just said no. So it's really starting to tumble downwards on it.
And the big thing I hear, obviously, from Fargo, I know you saw last week, President of the Chamber of Commerce, Craig Whitney, is trying to build a business coalition about business development in Fargo. And yet I look at farmland, the most expensive it's been in decades. Commodity prices are at an all-time high. How do you create that balance going, hey, business development's more important than ag development in the best ag state in the country?
And how do you have a tax commissioner like Corey Fong out there saying, had oil not been a factor, we would have been just fine economically? You know why? Because ag's doing so well. So we're going to take 50,000 of the premier agriculture acreage we have and take it out of production? I don't think so. I don't think it's going to fly.
So your quick solution, you're saying just a smaller diversion, that's the answer?
No, you build a town to 42 or higher, 42 and a half. You look at what you do on the tributaries. You look at basins. You look at the wild rice. People always say, well, if you dam the wild rice, Joel, if you slow down the wild rice, you only gain 2 feet in Fargo. So what? 2 feet in Fargo can mean a lot at a crucial time, and you can control the release of the water. So it cannot just, the flooding in Fargo doesn't start at Highway 46. It doesn't. Because man built a state highway 46. That isn't where God said, oh, by the way, today the flooding begins here. It doesn't. You know.
No. As you also saw, the student body came out in North Dakota and said, hey, a vote of no confidence for the Chancellor Shravani. Not really surprised by that. I think we'd all agree that this student body's essentially sort of puppets for the president. What did shock me was this. I want to read a quote to you. Mr. Hull, who's now on the State Board of Higher Ed, as the student, was told or expressed by some board members that they were concerned about the students getting involved in this matter because it was a political matter. It's their education. What's the board talking about?
Well, they're off base. I mean, they're off base. The students have every right at that table. When I was in the legislature, we put students, even in an advisory capacity, on the Board of Higher Education. They should be listened to, respected, as I know some members have. Dwayne Espegard, a friend of mine, I always say, what did the student say? And he knows. This one didn't surprise me. Robert Valley, who sat on that committee, the State Board of Higher Education, in that advisory capacity, voted against Ham Shravani then. And he still is very vocal in these matters. He represents NDSU. You know, Robert ran as a Republican in South Fargo, didn't get the nomination. I personally felt he should have, might be because he's my cousin. And he's a Republican. How do you like that? But here's the truth. Robert felt that this was going south in a bad way a long time ago. And so this action didn't surprise me.
So do you think Shravani's gone?
Oh, I think that Ham Shravani and the board will come to some type of conclusion. The bad part for Ham, the answer to that is yes. I think Ham will not be here long term. The bad part is I don't think that Ham's done anything different than what his board has asked him to do. And so the board needs to either look at reinventing itself or else fully back Ham, and it appears they've chose the latter.
It does, and it's almost, you start to wonder, hey, if they just put him out front to take these arrows and see what sort of happens. Someone who's in the backdrop, they're talking about Senator Tim Flacco as possibly taking over. Does he get the new chancellor gig?
No, because if he does get the new chancellor gig, then people like me are going to come out and say, well, you Republicans, Tony Grinberg and others, you did this just to get your Republican buddy a job. And so unfortunately for Tim, he's caught in between those two worlds. He really shouldn't be it. I hope they look internally. I hope they look inside the system. And one of the reasons that they're not able to do that now is because many of these campus presidents make way more than the chancellor does. So, you know, take a president.
At least they used to.
Take a President Kelly, though. You think he's going to want to leave UND and running a campus and make less money, getting into the middle of this political turmoil? And then Dean Brashani's had his own problems, all kinds of his own problems. Well, here we sit. You know?
So that's a better question. Is the State Board of Higher Ed and the way it's set up right now, is that the answer to North Dakota higher education? Do they just abolish it and try something different?
Look in the next week. I know you're thinking about going out to Bismarck, as am I. Look in the next week for legislation that empowers a complete restructuring of higher education. And look for it to be generated in the House by a House member from District 41.
Can you give us a wink too, like Heidi
Let's
did?
just say it's not Betty Randy. That's the other one.
Last thing I want to discuss with you, obviously over the weekend, Red River's in the state high school hockey tournament. They end up winning, but in the semifinal game, some kids show up there in KKK garb. Just your comments on it.
Well, it's a real teachable moment now. Now it's up to Red River. And they have to be open in public about what they do. They can't just say, well, these kids were freshmen, which makes them, what, about 15, Chris? 14, 15? They can't do that. They have to say, no. Well, you know, we took this PBS documentary in. We showed them what the Ku Klux Klan is all about. This is unacceptable. These people hated blacks, Jews, Catholics. They did everything. I mean, these are evil people at their very core, and we're not going to stand for this. And until they make sure the public knows that the students of Red River got that, not just these three, but that the students receive that level of education, they won't have addressed this.
Joel, always great to have you on.
We'll
have you back on in the near future during Crossover. Stay with us. I want to get your thoughts, obviously, on, hey, this amendment with Al Carlson. You've got the vote of no confidence from the students with the Chancellor Shervani, plus the situation in Red River with the KKK. Stay close. Coming up much more right here on 630 Point of View.